Cafe 54 is a pet project of mine. That is a new thing, and me strategically using people to create a vast network that does not yet exist. Um, and as I get into the conversation, you guys will really understand um, the importance of what the brand ambassadors' jobs are, and why they are my front line of innovation, because they are literally the foundation to everything. Out there were 54 nations. Oops. So that's how we got the name K54. And that's why we have the slogan 54 nations, one lifestyle. Because the brand is about removing the borders virtually, even though you can't remove them physically. So Cafe 54 is my newest project. Um, my expectation is it will take approximately 4 years to get up to our full um, rollout. This is year one. We started in March, because I know that because I want to make sure that we're very, very clear. Although my companies and the holding company is older, this project just started March of this year. And so Starbucks has been very effective in two areas. And one of the areas is branding and loyalty. And so in America, people don't say, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. They go and say, I'm going to get a Starbucks. Even if they're not going to Starbucks, they say, I'm going to get a Starbucks. And so that is part of what is the branding. Um, we have another brand here called Walmart's. Walmart is a logistical center that is that is that is under the umbrella of a retail establishment, just like Starbucks is a branding center that is under the the umbrella of a retail establishment. Um, Walmart's annual revenue is higher than the entire GDP of the wealthiest nation out of all 54 nations, and that's our grocery store. So, and in your countries um, where you see, I think it's a blue background with this yellow sunburst or sun or whatever. That is Walmart sign, and that means that Walmart bought that particular entity in that particular country, because they do have some of their revenue or some of their interests in Africa. They just fly under the radar, and people don't know that it's an American company that bought a African company. So so that is the approach, and that's where Linda became very, very important because he's very familiar with the Starbucks side. When you're talking about how we're setting it up, I said earlier we're using branding and we're using logistics. And the beauty of it is that when you go in and you try to establish a big business, there is corruption, there's just a lot, depending on which nation you're in. The one thing that goes very under the radar is a simple small business. So even though we are a network business with a corporate office in South Africa, every one of our coffee houses will be local. Our vendors are local sourced vendors. So if you're in Nigeria, the vendors that we're using will be in Nigeria. If you're in Kenya, the vendors that we're using are in Kenya. If you're in South Africa, so you guys, you get what I'm saying. So so all of our coffee shops appear to be small, simple coffee shops. But what people don't know is that there is a virtual network that is being created logistically that removes the physical borders. So if you're in Ghana and you're in Kenya, even though those are two distinct coffee shops or four distinct coffee shops, plus the franchisees, you're still moving goods and services between your neighbors. And you've gotten around a lot of the paperwork because you're working with a neighboring country as a independent entity, but it's not really an independent entity because all of these entities are owned by Cafe 54. So you'll have your entity, and if you guys have KFCs or Pizza Huts or those types of things, um, there are, or even Starbucks. Starbucks has its core company that does all of its logistics, and then they have franchises that they allow other businesses or other individuals to open up their own business, but they're all serviced from those hubs. So strategically, we're putting two hubs or two coffee houses in the major cities of every nation. They serve as logistics hubs. They remove the borders to allow us to move goods and services between all 54 nations. And as you're moving it between all 54 nations, it gives you a what I call the branding no borders strategy. And that is part of the genius of what we're doing. Unassuming coffee shops, brand recognition, having both a physical and a virtual presence, and creating a network that allows our people to go and interact with each other, which I haven't gotten to that. So I'll move really quickly because I only have a little while left. But this is the thing. I'm hoping you guys can see it on your screen because this gives a much clearer picture of what Cafe 54 does. And so I also did a little bit of market research. And in the market research, I found out that in America, we are about, our total population is about 320-ish million people. 320 million people makes the entire United States of America. And about 50% of those people are what's called middle class. That means they have a disposable income of about 2,000 US dollars a year. That's it. The richest country with the richest economy, an economy of about 22, 23 trillion annually. Um, and you'd have to put China and at least four other countries together to equal United States GDP. That's just an FYI. Not what you hear on social media. That's just real numbers, comes from real validated sources. But they are 320, 340, something like that, million people, and 50% of our people are considered middle class. Pan Africa is 54 nations. Oh, and by the way, the United States is 50 states. Pan Africa is 54 independent nations. But if you remove the physical, if you remove the physical borders in a virtual way, Pan Africa is 1.544 billion souls. So you have a market share of about 320 million people versus a market share of 1.544 billion people. So you're looking at 6 times more bodies. And this is again a lie that's told to the people of Africa to keep them repressed. By the same measure of middle class, Africa's middle class and emerging middle class is 33% of of their population. And I say there because I'm not talking about individual nations. I'm talking about Africa as a collective, just like you talk about the United States as a collective. And so the reality is, if you're looking at 33%, that means that the market share available for this type of project is about 5 million. So that means that the market share available in Pan Africa is 3 times the market share of the United States. And so if you think about it, if it's 3 times that of the United States, this is just food for thought. That means that the potential impact of doing retail chains is 3 times greater than that of the United States. Another major demographic consideration is that on average, um, the consumer in the nations of Africa are more likely to make online purchases than the people in the United States. And it has a lot to do with geography. It has a lot to do with availability. Um, and so those demographics, and by the way, they spend about $200 a month on online purchases. Um, and that's in most places in Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. Um, we have data to back
Check
that up.
this out, you guys. It literally changes colors according to the temperature. And it says, embrace the Pan African coffee culture. And then when you turn it around, isn't it pretty? It says Kafe 54. They have a lot of great things on that site. All of them are true to what they say. Go on that site and check out the things that are on there. Nice.
And this isn't my first time doing this type of a project. Again, like I said, I grew, or I was part of 77 people only that grew. We're called Nardelli Boys, that grew the second largest retailer from, as I said earlier, 43 to 86 billion, billion with a B, people. So this, at the end of the day, will not be in my opinion, it won't be a multi-billion dollar US dollar organization, but it will be the catalyst for multi-billion dollar endeavors. Because strategically, and this is the part that I love that people don't see, strategically, people see a coffee shop. Strategically, people see an innovative hub. But the part they don't see is that in those coffee shops are entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs need seed funding. That seed funding comes from individuals in Africa, and it also comes from a separate organization that I set up called BVC, which is it's a venture capital firm. And so when those entrepreneurs are there and they're looking for seed investors and they have a good idea, the cool part is while everybody's talking about Cafe 54, BVC is investing in so many companies that are African based companies, keeping all of the money in Africa, launching several businesses in all 54 states in Africa. So when you want to think about what the big game plan is for this, it's not a coffee shop. It's a logistics and a branding organization that is housed as coffee shops. And that has been the secret recipe for success for all of the largest companies in the United States. So that's just that is what it is. That and then you get to the part where you see the brand ambassadors. And I'm going to let Linda expound on that a little bit, but let me just give you the general crux of how that works. We have our brand ambassadors. That's what we advertise for. But the hidden thing is we're not just looking for brand ambassadors. We're looking for people to get we I know that on the initial ad it said commission. That's our way of weeding out people who are serious and people who are not serious. So what we instead of doing a more formal interview process, we decided let's go out, let's see who's interested in terms of spreading the gospel of K54 to increase our following to help us innovate and engage people virtually and also to get our branding out there through merchandising. Um, we have stuff. I use stuff. Some people here in the United States use stuff. So and the way that they're using it is they'll get a mug or they'll get a cup or they'll get a T-shirt to show their support. Um, I found that that's a more effective way of creating buzz because people tend to follow things that they're invested in. And where somebody may not invest in a traditional sense, the moment somebody gets a mug or the moment somebody gets a t-shirt, they're invested. And we'll talk about that later, but right now I'm just talking about the organization. So where you see the brand ambassadors, that's commission based. However, we have, because we're getting so many, the same way that the store associates are managed by a store manager, our brand ambassadors will be managed by ambassador managers. And the ambassador managers are being paid a base salary because they're all sales. So besides, they're getting paid a base salary. From our brand ambassador managers, which are the equivalent of a store manager, you have marketing managers. And 7 brand ambassador managers will report to a marketing manager. 7 marketing managers will report to the director of sales and marketing. They'll report to the VP of sales and marketing. And if you notice, there's only one VP of sales and marketing. And then that goes to the person who's actually running the company. Now, bear in mind, these roles, because we just started this venture in March, there is not a single role within an organization that will ultimately have about maybe 20,000 people. I'm talking about paid people. At the end of the day, within 4 years, this organization will have about 20,000 people. In having about 20,000 people, there will be a need for the leadership. So one thing I don't do, I'm very honest, I'm very transparent, I'm very ethical. And one of the things that I don't do is say things that aren't true. You have your CEO right here, your COO, and Human Resources Vice President. Under that, you have 3 different channels. The 3 different channels are 3 distinct businesses. The 3 distinct businesses are your physical establishment, and the physical establishment is K54 Retail. K54 Retail is your coffee houses. Each coffee house has 12 associates or 12 team members. Those 12 team members, each of those 12 team members report to, of course, the store manager. So it's 13 people in total per store. That's the physical what it is. 8 store managers roll up to district manager, one district manager, or 7 district managers roll up to one uh, regional manager. Um, I don't know why I have DM twice, so please forgive me for having that. Um, those roll up to one VP. The one VP rolls up, or the 8 different VPs roll up to the executive vice president, which is the person that's over all of the stores. And these are for our stores. There are VPs that will also be in charge of franchisees. So franchisees are the stores that other entrepreneurs want to open. Um, there's something called Vita E Cafe that they have in South Africa and a couple other nations, where there is, and like I said, KFC, where there are people who actually they buy the franchisee. It's just serviced by that brand. So that's that. Then there's another division, a separate company called KV, is called K54 Global. Now, there has to be a mechanism that allows us to foster entrepreneurial endeavor, have people learn from each other and interact with each other. So where all of that comes together, which is very important, where the social or the borderless part comes in is through K54 Global. That will allow people to, there's streaming media, there's there's educational parts, there are different entrepreneurs will be able to do, in America it's called a Shark Tank, where they're able to pitch their ideas to potential investors, to allow those investors to invest in their ideas. So that's all of that comes from K54 Global. So you'll be able to, or our people will be able to sit in, our customers can physically sit in a coffee shop, our coffee shop, or sit at home and be able to tap into K54 Global. And so that is very, very, this is probably the linchpin. I would think K54 Global is the most important part of the 3 legs of the stool, because this is what brings everything together without a border. Because I mean, I'm sure that when you have streaming media, all of y'all are on, and that's why we're reaching out to you guys. And by the way, within 2 weeks of us announcing our push to find brand ambassadors, we started October the 25th, and by within a 2-week period, we had already had 52 responses. Some of you are some of those responses, but we had 52 of the responses. And out of those 52 responses, some people were good fits, others may not have been as good fit. Um, and so we've been narrowing it down. So people are coming in every day. Every day, people are coming in saying, "Hey, I want to be a brand ambassador." So we're very, very blessed and fortunate about that. But this K54 Global is, in my opinion, the linchpin, because the only way we're going to be able to get um, the borderless transactions that we're trying to get, where somebody's sitting in the coffee shop and they're able to work and innovate with somebody sitting in a coffee shop. If somebody's sitting in a coffee shop in Tanzania and then they're interacting with somebody in South Sudan that's sitting in another coffee shop and collaborating, this is the linchpin to that happening. So that's just an FYI. That's what that K54 Global is. Most of the stuff. Oh, if you guys want to know where we came up, how we came up with our expectation for our numbers, Um, for the physical stores, um, we used data. We took the 2022 or the 2023 and the 2024. Yeah, we took 2023 and 2024 data from our largest competitor in terms of sales, in terms of merchandising, in terms of foot traffic. And then we looked for their worst performing stores. And we took their worst performing store and out of that worst performing store, we took um, and reduced the actual um, expectation by 20%. So think about this. Our success model is based on a failure model. When I wrote my when I did my PhD, my dissertation was literally the phenomenological approach to executives who've experienced failure. And so one of the things I found out when I became Dr. Ward is how to create success from failure. So we took the information from the worst performing store for 2 years straight, and then we took and we reduced the expectation by 20%. So all of the coffee shops that we launch will be based on and are based on a failure model, which means the risk mitigation or the probability for success is much higher because we're basing our success on someone else's failure or lessons learned. Um, and then for our online approach, because we want to get brand recognition, but we also want to have realistic expectations. So what we found out was through data, I'm a big data guy, but through data analysis, we found out that the worst performers, the worst individuals, are able to move 30 items a month. That's the worst people. Average people move items at the average is 510 items a month. Again, we're not talking about selling cars and houses. We're just talking about branding merchandise. Worst performers are at 30. Average performers, not best performers, average performers are at about 510, 510 a month. So all of our numbers, whether it's the stores, whether it's the online, but the cool part about this is that it's not just selling the merchandise, it's delivering the brand and it's bringing people. So theoretically, I should be able to go, or any of y'all should be able to go to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm probably missing something, X or Twitter. You should be able to go to any of those platforms. And if my brand ambassadors are doing their jobs correctly, I should be able to see that those numbers are exploding. Um, Linda and others that are already on my team can tell you, I took simple ads. The reason that we got, and I didn't use a big marketing team because I don't believe in that. I took simple ads. We had like 4 followers. Within 2, 3 weeks, those 4 followers turned into over 100 followers. The reason that's important is because we're not talking about somebody doing OnlyFans. We're not talking about somebody doing a personal page. Businesses getting a following is a lot less likely than individuals getting a following. So the fact that we were able to do that shows the effectiveness of proper branding. So I'm the original brand ambassador. Um, when we set up our our online store for merchandising, excuse me, coffee. Okay, when we set up our store for branding and merchandising, um, I put out simple commercials or simple little ads on my sites, and boom, I didn't beat anybody over the head. I just did what I do. And when I did what I do, we had people getting brands. And not only did we have people getting the merchandise, but we had people getting the merchandise and sending testimonials because the merchandise, they thought they were just supporting to grow the brand, only to find out that the merchandise was high quality merchandise. So that's just kind of where things are. Um, and the approach and letting you guys know that the data is real data. Um, and I'm going to pause for a second. However, the people who are brand ambassador managers on up, not only are they getting whatever comes to them from the sales that are attributed to them, but they're also getting a base salary because the base salary is needed because they're the ones that are doing the administration. So the same way I'm doing this conversation with you guys, my brand ambassador managers are going to be doing their own conversations. They'll have the full battery of tools to use. We have, and I'm going to open up the floor because I see share mine.
No,
Or
it's
if not,
okay.
okay, cool. So I'm going to mute myself and you go to talking, and then I'll finish up with Q&A.
All right, cool. All right, guys. As Dan explained, I'm Linda. I'm the co-founder and the COO of Cafe 54. And with this mission, I can never stress it out any better than Daniel has. But K54 is more than just a collaboration hub. It's a movement that empowers African entrepreneurs and that fosters economic growth. And we are creating a platform where ideas meet innovations and partnerships drive actual change. And with that said, we needed a starting point, and we could say this was the greatest starting point that one can ever come when it comes to the Pan-African approach. You know, we with this focus on just specifically the collaboration and innovation and community building, we are creating that form of a partnership, and how this impacts, the Pan-African approach as a Black African. I understand the significance of Pan-Africanism in promoting economic empowerment and unity. It's about celebrating our diversity, sharing our strengths, and as well driving growth through strategic partnerships. So at K54, we commit ourselves to fostering that Pan African community, and where entrepreneurship, innovation, and thought leaders can come together and share ideas and drive change. So, speaking on this approach, which is why did we choose the brand ambassador approach? Our brand ambassador program is designed to identify and empower passionate individuals who share our vision. We are basically looking for individuals who can believe in the power of Pan Africanism and our passion about driving growth and developing uh, on this continent. And as Dan said, each and every store is aimed at that regard, having to grow and develop not just the single nation, but the whole continent. Um, so through this program, we'll be driving the brand awareness, promoting the K54's products, and to foster a community of like-minded individuals who are committed to making a difference. And I can never say it enough, but all of you guys being in this first step, you are part of that. You are part of a team that is so dynamic when it comes to making this change that every step of whatever that we do, we're doing it in the same plate, and the goal becomes having to change where we are to where we're going. So to speak more on, I think I've touched, I gave you the basis of this brand ambassador approach. So we could say as well with the positions that are available. You know, there's a career growth path, and it doesn't just begin or end at a platform where you'll be just being a brand ambassador. But you know, we are having a competition to uplift you guys, and we're excited to launch a competition that will drive not just brand awareness, but that will drive sales engagement to Cafe 54. And your role is very crucial in promoting our brand and products, you know. And how this works is that we'll be providing each ambassador with a unique referral link to share with their network. Uh, Maybe Instagram, Twitter, all your guys' network. So that will be something that is given to you guys, and you'll obviously share your link on your social medias, and then will be able to track your sales in that. But then the exciting thing about this is that the top two ambassadors will be appointed as a Cafe 54 ambassador manager, where this is the paid position with the 10% profit of all sales generated and so forth. So we are very excited to see your unique referral links in action and celebrate the ambassadors who actually drive the most out of their sales. So this message was just to empower, as I said, the Pan-African growth and the strategy behind partnerships. So I think I've touched on it enough. I can see also the time is kind of moving. So I want to take all of you guys' questions. I'm gonna give it to Dan again to just give us the Q&As, and then we can answer most of you guys' questions, and we just hear what you guys also have in your minds. Thank you, guys.
True story. Now why is she stealing packages off his porch? No, not today. Yes, our customer went and recovered his K54 stuff. Gladiator style. He got his. Now get yours.